good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you are listening. Good day to you, Minot sports fans. It is November 24th, 2020. You are listening to episode 14 of the Minot Sports Podcast, brought to you by KMSU TV and radio. So welcome, everybody, tuning in to episode 14 of season 2, where we talk all about Minot sports in the area, all about highlights, news, promoting athletes, not just through a microphone, but also through witnessing of each sporting event, each game as they happen on a week-to-week basis, every day, every night, every time we get to look at the schedule daily. Any opportunity we can get, we will certainly take care of that. I am your host each and every episode, Cole Clementich, coming out to you from the KMSU Broadcasting Studios inside Hartnett Hall at Minot State University. Welcome aboard. If this is your first time listening, we'd like to welcome you to the podcast. We're very thankful to have you. If you have been a long-time listener, we're also very glad to have you back here with us again as each episode moves along. We're very grateful for you guys, and we are certainly hoping that you are having a good day today. And speaking of that, as I mentioned earlier, it is November 24th. That is a Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. We are now on to Thanksgiving break. At least Tuesday was the last day today before we head off on break. So the festivities begin this week. Hope all you guys are staying safe and healthy out there. And even with no travel advice, if you do travel, hoping for safe protocols and that you guys will be able to get from point A to point B all without any trouble. But once again, guys, welcome. Certainly happy to have you on board. Got another great show for you at this time. So a little bit of background. Last week, I was hoping to get another episode in before this week, but clearly that wasn't the case. Had to get ready for the KMSU auction. The 22nd annual KMSU auction went amazing, by the way. You guys should check it out on YouTube. Had a little bit of a switcher problem in there, but no worries, we got it up and running again, so thank goodness nothing too catastrophic happened. But we got it up and running after that little mix-up, and so you see 2 parts of the auction and also the pre-show involved. So you guys should go check it out, but going back to what I was saying, was hoping to get another episode in last week, couldn't make it happen as we were preparing for the KMSU auction. And so now topics that I wanted to get to last week will be on here. So you will hear all of it right on today's show in episode 14 of the Minot Sports Podcast, which you can go follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. YouTube has all the goodies, the bread and butter of content, all the podcast episodes, and post and pregame interviews will go on there as well. You can go check out our sponsors from KMSU TV and radio also on those same social media platforms. Again, we had a great 22nd annual KMSU auction just this past Thursday. I was fortunate enough to be hosting. We ended up raising a lot of money out of the deal after getting donations from lots of businesses here in town, which we are very grateful for, as well as grateful for all of those who called in to bid. So quick message saying thank you guys. It was a wonderful event. Already cannot wait to see what next year would look like with all this happening at the moment, all this chaos. We might see some more, or rather less restrictions. So we will see what that will look like. And also looking forward to some other major events within the KMSU Broadcasting Department. We will also be providing a broadcasting of the MSU men's and women's basketball teams for a weekend series just on one day of the weekend. aiming for, I believe it's Friday, February 12th. I will have to look into that, but that is the expected target date, which that is included. I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit for you guys, as this is part of some big time news, and we should probably get on with the show because we got some wonderful news and then also some hard decisions made by the leadership in the local political offices, which we will get to in a moment. Governor Doug Burgum announcing no high school athletics. We will have much to talk about on that. We also have RE Deemers Knights in the state tournament in the Fargo Dome after accomplishing the 7-peat over the Des Lacs Burlington Lakers. Their 7th straight year in the state tournament. We will look into how they did. A look at also Minotauros hockey versus the undefeated Aberdeen Wings. Wings still good as always this time around, which poses bad news for Minot and the other teams within the Central Division. We got men's hockey from Minot State on the road versus the Williston State Tetons. Like I said, guys, we got a great show coming up, and we shall start off with RE Deemers Knights in the state tournament. Class B volleyball. The District 12 tournament has come and gone. The Region 6 tournament has come and gone. All the other district tournaments and region tournaments, they have come and gone. And now it is down to the final 8 teams inside the state of North Dakota of the Class B basketball division. And when you think about it, final 8 teams inside the state of North Dakota, to say that you're one of those final 8 teams, that is really, really difficult to accomplish. And for any school or team to say that they are one of the 8 is a huge accomplishment. Certainly not very easy to do. And when it's just 8 teams, boy, that's a huge spotlight to make a performance out of. But for the Knights from RE Deemers here in town, they were one of the fortunate clubs to make it to the big stage in Fargo after the Fargo Dome just recently hosted the Dakota Bowl, where it crowned 4 football teams state champions in 9-man, Class Single A, AA, and AAA. So the Fargo Dome is busy going on at this time. Didn't feature any of the football teams. However, we did get a local volleyball team in there with the Knights after winning 3 straight in the District 12, 3 straight in the Region 6. The Knights have punched their ticket to the state tourney, and now they are in it with 7 other schools with volleyball teams that have scratched and clawed their way all the way up to this point. And for this group, boy, this is... You talk the best remaining 8 volleyball teams in the state. For Class B, that is an elite group. And whoever you're going to face in the first round, automatically that's no easy task. That was going to be a challenge no matter who the Knights faced. And for RE Deemers, getting to the state tournament, their first matchup probably was the biggest test for them. The Linton HMB Lions, who all the way through the regular season, the district tournament, and the regional tournament, not one loss, all but 3 sets for the Linton HMB Lions. They were victorious. You heard that right, folks. They only lost 3 sets all season. Undefeated going in. This certainly was the biggest test for the RE Deemers Knights. And like that, how would you like to face them in the very first round of the state tournament? In fact, how would you like to face them at all? Well, for the Knights, they had a tilt with them earlier in the regular season inside the castle, where Linton swept the match, and it was no chance for RE Deemers. For the Knights, hoping that fortunes would be better this time around, but knowing that Linton is on the other side, it would end up being a big challenge. And certainly for RE Deemers, unfortunately, not being able to pick up the match win, not even a single set from the Linton HMB Lions. Knights lose round 1 of the state tourney 3-0. Set 1 was 25-15. Set 2 was 25-17. And then Linton closed out the Knights 25-12 in the third and final set. So a state title is now out of reach for our Redeemers. However, that does not completely end their season, as they now get put into the consolation bracket, where their next game would be against the Dickinson Trinity Titans, which we're still talking the best remaining 8 teams in the state of North Dakota in Class B volleyball. So even for the Knights moving into the consolation bracket, it still does not get any easier for them. Just like Linton HMB, the Knights also had to face the Dickinson Trinity Titans also in the regular season. I believe that was a sweep for the Titans in the Castle. I do know that Dickinson Trinity got a 3-0 sweep also against the Bishop Ryan Lions. So again, not another match where it will not be easy for the Knights. But that's also not to say that they won't rise up to the challenge. No, because they embraced it, and for this one, against the Titans, they gave them a run for their money to try and earn that spot in the 5th place game. Now, although it was 3-0 for Dickinson Trinity, again, Knights did not make it easy for them. The first set was 27-25, so right off the bat, a very competitive atmosphere between the Titans and the Knights. And Knights don't make it any easier for the Titans. The next set was 26-24, and the final set, not so much. It was 25-8, giving the Titans a victory in the first consolation match. Therefore, moving on to the 5th place game. And so with the Titans winning 3-0 over our Redeemers, that puts them in the 7th place game. And once again, you want to talk the best 8 remaining volleyball teams in the Class B division of North Dakota High School Athletics. It still does not get any easier for the our Redeemers Knights, because for their final matchup of the state tournament, they would take on the Kenmare Honkers, and in the final game for these 2 teams, as well as the same for all others in the tournament, the 7th place game, Kenmare would take that spot, leaving our Redeemers of all 8 teams getting 8th place in the Class B North Dakota Volleyball State Tournament. They were able to get a set win on Kenmare, but the Honkers, just another one of those teams, too much for our Redeemers to handle. And so that Honkers taking it 3-1, and that is the season for your Knights. Let's not look down upon them. They had certainly a great season. Let's give them credit. A shout out goes out to the our Redeemers Knights volleyball team for working and persevering, doing a lot of persevering this year, dealing with injuries and just having to come back, make a few comebacks in some of these matches this past season. The Region 6 Championship is a good example. You got to give this team a lot of credit. They had to fight extra hard just to get back to the state tournament. And I'll say it, to do it once, getting through the district and region tournament, is impressive. To do it 7 times in a row, however, that is amazing. That is super hard to do, and we got to give these Knights credit. So congrats to them on a great season. Hold your heads high, ladies, because you did well this season. And what they showed us recently is that they will be back next year. They will still be in the conversation once again. That is one guarantee that can be made heading into next fall sports season. So once again, our Redeemers, congrats on a great season. And there you have it. The Class B and Class A volleyball seasons are complete. That also concludes the high school fall athletics schedule, as the volleyball state tournament included the final fall athletic games on the high school schedule. For Class A, the Century Patriots, the Bismarck Century Patriots, state champions, winning 3-1 over the West Fargo Packers. And then the Linton HMB Lions, like I said, undefeated earlier in the episode, defeating the Knights, becoming eventual state champions. They defeat the Langdon area Edmore Munich Cardinals in a sweep. So there you have it for the volleyball scores and news and highlights there. Patriots and Lions being crowned champions for the respective divisions in the Class A and Class B. And now we move on to winter athletics in the high school sports world in the state of North Dakota. Or do we? That is the question that we are facing right now. And of course, don't want to be too completely feeling down on it, but there is some clarity from the offices of the governor. We will get high school athletics in the winter, but if you guys haven't heard, we do have some news from North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. I wanted to get this news covered right away in a show like this last week, but again, busy time last week and didn't quite get to it, so we're getting to it now. This is kind of late news reporting on my part. From the office of the North Dakota Governor, that started Monday, November 16th, all activities K through 12 are suspended, including practice until December 14th, as ordered by the state of North Dakota. So if you didn't hear it then, well, you're hearing it now. However, there are some, or were, adjustments made to the ruling after a meeting with the NDHSAA. Winter sports, now this is the new ruling. The old ruling was students couldn't practice, and all athletic events and other activities were suspended until December 14th. That is still the case, but with this new ruling in effect, announced on the 18th, sports practices and extracurriculars may resume November 30th, including extra precautions, and competitions will plan to resume on that day, December 14th. So the latest ruling from the office of North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, sports practices will begin soon. So just a little bit of a break here, trying it to limit the spread of the coronavirus, while also planning to play games in the winter season as safe as possible. So again, if you haven't heard it then, you're hearing it now. So for Minot High, Bishop Ryan, and RE Deemers, for basketball, hockey, wrestling, all that good stuff, just being put on a little pause, and then they'll be back eventually. So some schedule adjustments will be made, I would think, and when the sports get back, eventually, we will also be ready to get back into the action. So, brief summary, Burgum announcing a brief break for North Dakota high school athletics and activities to limit the spread of COVID for a short period, and then they will be back hopefully soon. We will see what news comes about in these next few weeks here. For the other piece of news that is rather thrilling to live for, if you are an MSU student aching for some college athletics, well, now is the time to start planning, because with news coming out on the same day as Governor Burgum, high school athletics to go on pause, on that same day earlier, the NSIC just announcing that there will be, this will probably be the best news you will hear all day, there will be sports. Yes, winter athletics are officially announced for the 2020-2021 winter campaign. NSIC announces basketball and wrestling schedules for the 2020-2021 academic year. And with that means basketball and wrestling for your MSU Beavers. It may only be a condensed schedule because they usually start in November, but you really can't go wrong with what we're dealing with right now. You really cannot go wrong with a shortened schedule. Pretty much anything we can get at this point That's a win. So, for your Beavers, for MSU Athletics, we got wrestling and then basketball for both the men's and women's teams, ready to start with the expected date on January 2nd, a day after New Year's. So some more sports, this time college athletics for MSU to be added to the schedule. Let's take a look at what it looks like for your Beavers currently. Now, because COVID is still going around, obviously the schedule is condensed because they couldn't start on time. There is a little bit of a change-up to the schedule format. So usually the basketball games would be played on the weekend, sometimes maybe a Wednesday night game here and there. But usually on the weekend, it would be the Beavers would face one team and then a different team the next day. That will not be the case for this upcoming season. It will be the same team on both days for each weekend for your MSU Beavers. Same goes for all of the other NSIC clubs in the division. But let's look at the schedule. Like I said, January 2nd is the start date for athletics to begin again. For MSU Beavers, there will be 8 home games and 8 road games, so 16 games on the schedule. We'll go by each opponent in order for your Beavers, starting off at home versus Southwest Minnesota State, on the road at University of Minnesota Duluth, back home versus St. Cloud State, on the road versus University of Minnesota Crookston, back home versus the Bemidji State Beavers, on the road at Minnesota State University Moorhead, back home versus Northern State, and then driving down to Bismarck versus University of Mary. So 8 series versus teams within the NSIC division that the Beavers play every year. Again, a little different format to the schedule. No non-conference games will be played. And so sticking with inside the division, and just like that, to limit travel and making it easier for each team, Beavers will face one opponent one day on Friday, and it'll be the same the next day on Saturday or Saturday, Sunday. However the schedule works, that is what is to come of MSU Beavers basketball for both the men's and women's teams. For MSU wrestling, of course, they will also have to go with the same condensed schedule, being they're starting late as well. 6 matches for them, 3 at home, 3 on the road. They begin Thursday, January 7th. In fact, all of their matches will be on Thursday nights. Again, going with the opponents in order here. At home versus Minnesota State University Mankato, at St. Cloud State next. Hosting Northern State, driving down to Bismarck to face the Marauders of UMary. At Minnesota State University Moorhead, and then the final regular season match for them, Southwest Minnesota State at home, and then of course the Super Regional 5, which will commence later in the month of February. So there you have it for MSU Beaver winter athletic schedules. Exciting time to be an MSU athlete. I know fall athletics did not happen, but it'll be fun. Hopefully, if they allow attendance, we'll still see what it looks like by then, but it'll be exciting to see athletics back, kind of a sense of normalcy. The Dome is awesome to be inside in. It's a wonderful atmosphere, and the athletes deserve it too. So, again, some great news from the NSIC. We shall be looking forward to it. Again, January 2nd is when basketball starts, and then January 7th, the start time for wrestling. Go catch some fun MSU athletics in action. And with that said, that completes some of the big news of the episode. Let's talk some Toros hockey for a little bit. Tough weekend for Minot going up against the Aberdeen Wings. But if you look at it more, the Wings are good once again, leading the division. Heck, honestly, they look, judging by what I saw this past weekend, they look stronger than what they've had out there. They are undefeated so far in the 8, 9, 10 or so games that they've played, which is impressive and up to par for their standards. They are a bulldozer in the NAHL Central Division, leading it once again. Minotauros just right behind them in second. Toros got handed their first and second regulation losses this past weekend to the Wings from Aberdeen. So for how good the Wings are, it's all about how much Minot can really stand up to them, be a force, give them trouble. But really, just nothing much has stood in the way for this Aberdeen team that they're just rolling right through everybody. So for the Toros to get their first regulation loss to Aberdeen, tough, but it's going to be hard to hold on to a team of that caliber. And so for this past weekend, Minot hosting Aberdeen in the Mesa Arena Pepsi Rink. Friday night had some goal scoring all on one side, even kind of some weird instances involved. And for game one of the weekend series versus the Aberdeen Wings, the Minotauros drop game one Friday night 7-0. Nathan Verdes had himself a game that night, scored at least a hat trick. He may have had a fourth goal in there, which he probably did, although they were crediting someone else the goal. But Nathan Verdes, he scored a lot that night and then somehow got ejected afterwards for an obscene gesture, although I didn't see if there was anything else involved. But after he scored on a one-timer on the power play that beat Keenan Rancier clean, took his helmet off and bowed for a celly. I'm not sure if that broke it for the refs or if there was something else that we just did not see from him, but he was ejected right after scoring all those goals. So kind of a weird moment. Maybe there was something that he did to someone else that I didn't see or most of us didn't see, but the refs saw something. Maybe it was that removing of the helmet that got it for him, or he did something else. Again, I didn't see it. I did see the helmet removal, but I don't know, just kind of a weird situation that happened. So, but Nathan Verdes led the way for Aberdeen. I know he scored at least 3 goals, a hat trick on the night. May have had a fourth in there, but nonetheless, he led the way for Aberdeen victory in game 1. Game 2 was kind of the same, although his presence was less noticeable at times in that game. Toros kept a good eye on him, but again, scoring still kind of one-sided. Aberdeen went up early 2-0, and then the Toros came back to tie it. Goals came from defenseman Mason Campbell and forward Christian Kadolf. That would tie it 2-2 after 2 periods, and then Aberdeen would just score one, and Aberdeen would just run away in the third period, getting 3 in that final frame to take Game 2 on Saturday by a final score of 5-2, sweeping the Toros in that weekend series. Hence, the 2 regulation losses for your Toros now on the schedule. Again, Aberdeen is a tough customer. All you can do really is make it competitive as much as you can against them. For Aberdeen, this past weekend, they scored in many ways. Like, they have, of course, without a doubt, the offensive talent in the forward core. Defense is as strong as ever. But for the forwards, well, they can kill you in certain ways. They can quick strike offense. They can get down low and score those dirty rebounds, those loose pucks. They can score on the rush. They can set up in the offensive zone. They can set up on the power play. They could snipe one on you from time to time. Their offense was scored in a plethora of ways for them that really, that's hard to game plan because this is a multi-dimensional product that Aberdeen puts on the ice, and they made it look easy on all facets pretty much, and that is tough to game plan against. Aberdeen also used a lot of speed, which Toros had to make some intermission adjustments to be aware of some guys that were just coming off the bench. So this hockey thing definitely comes easy for Aberdeen, but let's give the Toros some credit. Tying up Aberdeen at the end of the second period, they were willing to fight for it, make it a close one. Aberdeen kind of let off the gas pedal a little bit, which might have then exposed some of that from Aberdeen's game a little bit on Saturday. But, of course, Aberdeen is Aberdeen, and they realized they were letting up a little bit, and so they just took in the third period, did it business as usual, and knew that they had work to do. So for Minot, again, losing the weekend series, being swept by the Aberdeen Wings. That was the same for all other teams that have faced Aberdeen this season. So the Wings will be definitely, once again, are a tough challenge, a tough task at hand every time either they come to town or we play out in their barn. They are sending the league on notice, and so we will have to see if and when there will come to be a regulation loss or even an overtime loss for Aberdeen's record. I think for the Toros, just take this weekend and move on from it. Regroup for the Bismarck Bobcats coming up tomorrow, and then another weekend series with them. Just regroup, get Rancier going again. Couldn't really fault him on a lot of the goals. I think for Minot, it was just about staying ready. And, when Aberdeen came out in quick strike opportunities, caught him off guard, and Aberdeen exposed some of Minot's defensive miscues on their own end. Also for Minot, take care of the puck in the defensive zone, make that first breakout pass clean, get set up in the rush on transition, do some of that, but also just focus on getting ready for the next matchup and regrouping, and I think they will be just fine and ready to go to compete with the in-state rivals, the Bismarck Bobcats, who they've beaten once already and got an extra point in a shootout loss to them in the first weekend of play. I think for Minot, just really focus on getting ready and refocusing, regrouping, and also limit the turnovers on defense, have some smooth and clean transitions. And I think Minot will be competitive again these upcoming next few games versus the Bismarck Bobcats. So there you have it for the Toros. Again, tomorrow night they will be in Bismarck to face the Bobcats, back home to face Bismarck once again for the start of another weekend series against them. And then in Bismarck again, this time on Saturday. Those are pretty much the only games happening this week in the Minot sports world, because of the high school athletics break and other weekend breaks for some of the other Minot sports teams on their respective schedules. But sticking with hockey, the Minot State men's team was just in Williston for a one-game weekend series versus the Williston State Tetons. And for a D1 club versus a D2 club, the Tetons making it a close one versus the Beavers. They played a great game that night. Giving up only 2 goals in a losing effort is nothing to scoff at. Just goes to show you the wonderful defensive performance by the Tetons. But not able to collect enough offense, but that also plays into the role of that how much the Beavers do well on their defensive end of the rink. They just got enough to defeat the Williston State Tetons. Final score 2-1 for them. Dylan Cassie and Nicholas Doyle, the goal scorers for the Beavers, the 2 freshmen, getting some contributions in there. And looking like a nice recruiting class these group of freshmen are turning out to be. Carter Barley also having a nice breakout season, already at double-digit point totals and a point-per-game player too, just getting started in their Beaver hockey careers. Minus the 1 loss to Jamestown, Beavers are looking good once again to start off the season. And again, that was only a 1-game series for the Beavers and the Williston State Tetons. Beavers are back home December 4th and on the road December 5th, where they will take on, once again, the Jamestown Jimmies to cap off the fall semester of games for them. And ladies and gentlemen, that will cap off episode 14 of season 2 of the Minot Sports Podcast. I know I said I was done with news for the episode, but just one quick little segment. National Signing Day was on November 11th, I believe. And so with that, we'd like to wish a congrats and welcome to all of the incoming MSU Beaver athletes, future athletes, might I add. Congrats on your commitments and signings, and welcome. I may possibly do a National Signing Day segment, may have a guest on the show for that. What would you guys think about that? I think that'd be a good idea. We shall see. I I think I may get in a guest for a show like that, talking about the latest national signing day for the fall athletes besides football, which they will be having theirs in the spring sometime. But yeah, we'll see what works out here. I may just do a segment on my own about it. In fact, I was actually going to get it on one of my latest episodes, but I didn't have it on there, and then I kind of spaced it out a little bit. So, well, Minot sports fans, there you have it. There will be a lot with all the MSU athletics announcing each and every one of their new recruits. But for now, we'd like to wish a congrats to all of them coming over here to play in all types of sports here at Minot State. And I'll probably do a future episode, future segment on that. We shall see. We'll have to plan it out for sure, but I'd definitely love to do something like that. But there you have it, folks. There it is, the final segment of today's episode, in which the Minot Sports Podcast, sponsored by KMSU TV and Radio. You can go support them on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Follow their Facebook, KMSU TV/radio. Their Instagram is KMSU TV Radio. Twitter page is at KMSU19. And the YouTube page is KMSU TV. This is where you can find all of the content and the big time episodes and videos on there, as well as here for the Minot Sports Podcast. Can support it also on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram, Minot Sports Podcast. I'm actually thinking about changing the username again because of my business cards, but who knows? I'm still kind of on the ropes with it, still thinking about it. But with that said, Twitter is at Minot Podcast, Facebook, the Minot Sports Podcast, same username for the YouTube as well. So go check us out on our social media pages, where you can find all sorts of daily content and even podcast episodes and more of the campus TV show as well, which be sure also to check that out as well, the weekly campus TV show being broadcasted on KMSU TV. Find it on Midco Channel 19 or on the KMSU TV YouTube or Facebook page, where we talk a lot of campus weather, news, and sports. Be sure also to check out some of the other KMSU personalities, Joshua Strong Photography, and the MSU Red and Green as well. Once again, Minot sports fans, thank you for listening, for tuning in into the latest, dipping our feet more into the Minot sports world. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support that you give me. You guys are wonderful, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. So, logging off of this episode, I am your host, Cole Clementich. You guys have a good day, stay safe and healthy out there, and take care as always.